Hey, welcome back to the Build It Basement. Today we're working on our Z-axis. We're going to throw some zip ties on our printer to hold it together for a few moments while we connect everything up, and throw some belts on there so it will hold itself up. And we'll see where we wind up and see where we go, and let's get into it. So, Z-axis on our Voron 2.4R2 LDO kit. Basically these guys right here, we installed these idlers with the EYE idlers a little bit ago, a few videos ago, right? Kind of near the beginning of the build. And then we also installed our Z motors. There's 4 of them to lift this guy Gantry up and down off of everything, but it moves slow, so it's not a big deal. The parts that move fast get smaller and smaller as we get closer and closer to the print head. So design wise, not too shabby. Quick overview of what we're doing. We are going to attach our belts to our Z idlers. We are going to clamp them in, and we're going to assemble and attach our Z joints to our linear rails that are in our Z, that are on the Z axis of our printer. Yeah. And all that will be driven by the Z drive motors on the bottom, of which there are 4, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So start off, bearing blocks. These bearing blocks allow for some slippage, just real quick. These right here are indented, they are rounded. I have gone ahead and I've printed and built 3 of the 4, just so I can get them out of the way so you don't have to watch that. Basically start your M5 nuts. Slightly lubricate some of this stuff so the plastic can slip by the other plastic. Make sure you put your clamps down in the proper orientation, both for your M5, M3 screw, as well as for the belt to pass through it. Then you have attachment of the part, the ball for the ball and joint, I guess you could say, with an M5 and an M3, M3x30, M5x30, and then our GT2 belt, 9mm. There are 9mm and 6mm belts in this build, so keep that in mind. They are telling us teeth down. That will match up with the grooves that are on the parts that we're mating them up to. And then they're telling us our belt cut lengths and kind of give us an overview of all that stuff. So actually one more thing, Hall effect, or it just says Hall end stop, but it's for a Hall effect end stop. A Hall effect end stop basically utilizes a magnet to tell the MCU that the gantry is a certain location, and you can do that if you like. We are using switches in ours, so you can also go senseless, which I had a poll up on my YouTube channel. So if you haven't become a subscriber and you haven't checked out my channel, go there. Sometimes I have polls up there. Some people have been steering some of the things I do in this build. I have extra parts to do different things. One of the things I asked is if people want to do this as a senseless build, which doesn't sound the way it should, but anyways, sensorless build, meaning that the steppers actually go under strain, and once they go under strain, they basically are drawing more current, which means that the MCU realizes that they've hit their end stops. We're using switches. We'll do that in the future. Maybe a different printer. So then you can put your gantry in, you can put your long zip ties. Told you we're gonna zip tie this thing together. And yeah, so let's get on with it real quick. And where are we building these things? Let me see here. Yeah, Hall effect end stop. Good question. All right. I don't know where it is. We'll find in a second. We did, let's see what I do. I came up with a new camera angle right here, this guy. This is a over the shoulder view. Let me know in the comments if you like this view, if you can see my thumbs. Got a wide, got a close, 4K on both, and you get to see my snot on the side. So that all being said, here are the parts that we have previously built. This is part of the Z. We have an M5x30, M3x30 in there, and let's put one together. Okay, so these have a flat surface and a indented surface. On the indented surface is where we're going to ride our second part. once we put these together. And these will have a little bit of play in them, and that is on purpose. So what we want to do is we want to place our M5 nut in the little place here. It will not fit in very tightly. It will slide right in. It's not meant to hold it. Of course, if I can get in there right, that'd be great, yeah. And we are going to put in our belt clamp, okay, with the groove facing downwards away from that nut, so not towards but away. So you see that? Oop, see? Oop, where am I going? Right over here. See it like that? You can see those grooves? That's how that's going. And that will hold our nut. And then all we're gonna do is flip this over real quick. Slide that through. Slide this one through. Leave that middle hole open for now. And put that on the side. Okay. We have all 4 of those built at this point. 1, 2. It's got a little bit of a booger on it for some reason. There's been some on the hot end. There, all 4. All right. So I'm gonna set those parts aside, and I'm gonna pull the printer up. I'm gonna make some room here. Don't need those yet, but those are tap parts. Let's get that printer up. And while we're doing that, we'll put that share up for that PDF again. And she's getting a little heavy. It's around about where we're going to want it. And I have the gantry sitting in it right now. Right here, previous build video. Last video, we put these titanium backers on. Still not 100% sure why this titanium backer wouldn't go on the backside of the linear rail. But that's just me, you know. If it's matching up with the rest of this, you go on the backside of that. Now, that being said, just a little bit of a rant, I guess, real quick here. I think it makes more sense to have it 90 degrees because the forces of this flexing this way are against the thicker part of this titanium as opposed to the thinner part. But that being said, should these titanium backers be on these sides, which they won't fit because it's too close to the printer, and is that just the reason why? And I don't think they'll fit on the inside either because there's not enough space for that tolerance. Nonetheless, okay, PDF. Let's see, what do they want us to do first? They want us to zip tie this thing up. So, what is the best camera for that? Is it this guy? This you? Yep, all right. So we got some long zip ties. Another way you can do this, if you don't have long zip ties, is to, because you should at this point have some empty boxes of filament, right? Assuming you've printed your parts already. So another way to do this is basically use some 3 or so boxes, empty or full, of your favorite filament. And you can lift it up with that and leave it up like that. Or you can do what the manual says and zip tie it, which is what we're gonna do. So I'm going to put one there. Now you know if these are long enough, to be honest. I'm gonna put one here, and I'm just putting through the first groove, and I'm going to put the legs of this thing, not really legs, but these Ys, through those zip ties. Okay, and then I'm going to put this rear extrusion on this rear section. Boom. There we go. Leveled gantry, right? Pretty close. Let's see if I get a better view than this. It's hard when you get a printer this tall. Ooh, that's nice. Yeah, that works. All right, so zip ties, zip ties. Holding that up. My super fancy titanium backers focus. And at this point, this should be really free because it's not attached to anything and it can move stuff around as much as it wants. But we are going to attach our bottom sections of our connections to our linear rails. It's gonna be the first thing. to do that, we are going to first put a little bit of thread locker on our M3x20 screws. And I'll go back up to the camera I call wide overhead. So this is going to be a little boring real quick here, but I will speed through as much as I can. We just need a little dab because a little dab will do it, and it just needs to go on the very ends because that's the only thing that's actually getting threaded. So, and if you didn't catch a previous video, my bottom plate here is a aluminum plastic sandwich. Sounds yummy, right? So basically 2 thin sheets of aluminum with plastic in between. It's a little bit more thermally resistant than the plastic that comes in the kits, and also less prone to flexing, bending, warping, all the bad things that you don't want to happen. Or maybe you do, because you like fixing stuff, which can be fun, but you can also get annoying. You may be asking yourself, where would I get such a piece of plastic metal thing? And I will tell you. I will tell you first, turn off your soldering iron. I will tell you KB3D, kb-3d.com. Chris over there, great guy. Send him some business. Cool. All right, so what we want to make sure we're doing here, and maybe, just maybe, I can do something that works. Let's see if this does something for us. Dust camera, that's plus overhead. Does this work? Yeah, it'll work. All right, so we're working here. That is the front left to me. That is also what we'd call Z0. C0 directly behind it, 1, 2 on the back right, 3 on the front right. Okay, so we have our part, has a rounded top, has a also rounded bottom. And then we have an M5 hole here, and we also have M3 holes on the front. This is basically going to be mounted to our linear rail and such. And we will just pass our screws through. I think my voice just went up an octave for some reason. That's okay. No one said I was a good public speaker, including me. All right. These M3x30s? Oh, M3x20s. These are M3x20s. It's like they look a little short for M3x30s. They're M3x20s. So I'm gonna get my melon in here, and I'm just going to start these screws. I'm just gonna start them cross-hatched, because one across from the other in an X pattern will pretty much ensure that you're lined up with all the holes. And then once I get them, I'm going to just give them a firm couple twists. And then the ones we started off with, even though they were not really tight, but they were finger tight, are going to seem really loose, because what we've actually done to some extent is compressed some of that ABS and loosened up those pieces. So with that one on, I like to take a little bit of PTFE, plastic safe lubrication, and I did this on my first printer about a year ago, and I have seen other people doing it, so I won't say I'm the first person that does this, but it makes sense to me. If you're gonna have two parts of any type of material against each other, you're gonna need some lubrication. So let's jump to the back now. Stop this thing from sliding around a little bit, and let's do another one. All right, so again, we're going to put our 4 screws through. Then these are all identical too, by the way. if you're wondering. Again, we're not going to hellishly tighten these things, but we are going to give them a little bit of a tweak. It's one of the good reasons to use a standard handheld tool versus an Allen wrench that you can get leverage on. Even the leverage on the short end of an Allen wrench on some of these plastic parts is definitely enough to cause irreparable damage. And that would not be good. Okay. And then let's see what we can do here. Oop, can we turn this down just a little? Oop, yep, get down like that. There you go. Loosen that up. Boom. All right. So that was Z0, Z1, and this is now Z2. We've got our 4 here. So if you think about it, there's 16 M3 screws holding our Z axis to the gantry, which is quite a bit. All right, and a little bit of lubrication on that. Dab will do ya. And last and not least, but not least, I should say, let's get Mr. Z3. Right, and a smidgen on that one. There we go. I'll clean off my hand real quick. And basically the next part is the attachment of our bottom pieces. And you can do this in a couple different orders, but pretty much what we're doing now, and let's come over to here. I don't know what the best camera angle is to do this. We'll go back to Z0 real quick. And actually, let me switch to this guy. What does this show us? Yeah, that's good. All right, so these basically are going to attach to the bottom of our gantry. And you should have an M5 and an M3 hole that these will fit into. And we should put a little bit of thread locker on these. And you could at this point, run a belt. Let's slide this over a little bit if you wanted to. But if you leave these loose for a second, just get them partially attached, you should be fine to kind of take a pause in between. There we go. One. Thread locker. Again, I said it before, but I'll just make a additional statement about it. Is when you put the thread locker on these screws, you don't need to cover all the threads. You only really need to get the ends. 95% of the threads are not attaching to anything. They're not threading to anything, so don't waste your thread locker. Pound for pound is pretty expensive. That one, and let's get this one. Just what I'm doing here. Try to open up the back end of my thread locker. And that's 5. And again, I'm just putting like 2 or 3 threads in. I'm not putting a ton. Whatever you do, don't tighten them all the way because you're just gonna have to unloosen them to attach your belts. Okay, now let's do this last one. Day. Okay. There we go. All right, and let's see, back to the PDF. So at this point we need to throw some belts on this thing, and right here, right there. Right here we have our minimum belt length for cutting. Now our kit came with 5.9 meters, which 5,900 millimeters. So we have more than enough to make what we need. So we can get about 12, let's see, actually, let me do some quick math here. I believe 44 inches, if you're in the United States, will get us, let's see, 3 millimeters in 44 inches. Yeah, so 44 inches will give us about 1,118 millimeters, which gives us exactly what we need plus another 18. So a couple extra centimeters on there and some spare. There's probably enough too to have enough left over that if we needed to make a new one, we could. So I'm gonna measure out 44 inches on my bench. And let's see, is this better? Yeah, that's good. All right, we're gonna go 44 inches on the bench with a pencil. And going old school, it's gonna make a pencil mark there. Pencil mark at 44, like that. And then I'm simply going to hold my belt to one end, hold it at this end, and give it a quick snip. Make sure I'm where I need to be. That. There's one. Now that we have one, we'll make the others pretty quick here. There's two. Try to keep them about the same length. That. Give that a snip. Nice hearty snip there on the Gates belt. Back in the day, some of the kits before the Voron team would even recognize kits as being a viable option at all, which really happened with LDO coming out with the kits and kind of raised the bar for everybody else, which is what usually tends to happen when somebody actually makes a bar to play with. A lot of the kits came with cheap knockoff belts that some didn't even have any real belting in the belts, meaning they were just rubber. It's rubber belts. Of course, those would not last very long for one, and would not hold tension the way they should. These belts will expand slightly over the first, I don't know, 10 to 100 hours of printing, depending on how hot they get and how quickly you're printing, and which all mechanical stuff. But they will expand. They will not contract. So you don't necessarily need to leave, oh yeah, we got enough to make a whole nother belt. So there we go, right? So if somehow, magically, somewhere, you mess up a belt, you want to hold on to this. This could come in handy. So I'm going to wrap that up real quick. All right, let's go to this camera. I'm the headless man. It's probably better that way. Come on. Try not to kill everybody's time here. Wrap, 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 wrap. Wrap, 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 wrap. Right? All right, so I'm gonna throw it back in the bag. That we will keep for a rainy day part fund. Or something like that. I do have additional belts around here somewhere. I have purchased them. So we're going to have to do some belt routing. And this is where things get a little fun, which, yeah, this one's a good one to see. So we have idlers here on our printer, and because we have idlers, what are they saying here about what is the preferred method to route belts in terms of putting them through? Let's see here. They are talking about loosening up your belt clamps. Yep, we got that. We understand that. Extend your idlers, which ours are extended. They're just being held on by a few threads, give or take. And then what else do they have here? Before becoming undone, tighten 4 turns. It's around about what we got. Nice little drawing there. Kudos to the crew. Some of these are new and actually fantastic. That's awesome. Okay. Belt routing. Follow the path pointed out by the arrows. Needle nose pliers, tweezers, or small tools can help with this step. The belt teeth are on the inside of the loop. Good tip. All right, so they want us to start, and I'm gonna sit down for this. They want me to start. I figure out what they're doing there. That first picture is kind of throwing me off a little bit. On how they want to do that. Okay, they want us to start, basically our starting point to be underneath there. And that should, why is it showing on the inside of the printer though? I don't get that. Or are they starting at the top? I'm a little confused here by that. It just doesn't look right to me. Why does that not look right? I'll have to consult my other printer. Stand by. Okay, so that goes straight through on the other side right there. Okay, I get it now. And see if we can come up with a best camera angle here. We turn this around and half break our camera. And that's, look at that ceiling. All right. So we're going to be feeding, this is kind of awkward. Maybe I should have done that first. All right, we're going to loosen up our clamp here on this first one. Like so. And dropping everything, which wasn't what I meant to do, but no harm, no foul. Do. Oh, come on. I think that'll work. Kinda, sorta, maybe. It's hard looking up at that light. All right, get this nut in. Nut does not want to play nice. There we go. All right, and then this clamp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass my belt into that. I'm going to let it stick out slightly. It's like a couple of teeth. And we can adjust that in a second anyways, but we'll get the right driver here first. All right, get that. And then the 3. Okay, I don't want it tight, but I just want it there. I got that sticking out about a centimeter maybe. And I'm not tightening this up by any means. I'm just putting enough on it to kind of sort of hold the belt in place. Okay, so that is there. We're going to loop this down. See if we can, actually let's go back to this, maybe. Nope, let's go back to this. Nope. And how about, yeah, we'll do that one. All right, so we're gonna bring this down. The teeth are facing on the inside, and they have to. They're gonna loop around our drive gear down here. Man, I'm so good at rhyming. And we're gonna place that down. It's gonna drop to the bottom. I'm gonna pull it all the way and then pass it back up. Pass it back up. I am making sure I am actually on the drive, which at current I am not. Trick is to get it right where you need it to be and not around things you don't need it to be around. I believe, let's see. Nope, come on. I'm trying to remember how I did this the first time around. I think I used a zip tie. I basically just had a zip tie as a guide in there, which I could do. Happening is my belt wants to take its own path. So I'm just gonna get a little something in there to tame it a little bit. Okay, and then grab it up. At this point, it should be on there. So if I turn this a little bit, it should catch. Yep. All right. Now we get that. We're going to pass it through our idler. And in this case, these are our Rama's idlers. And then up over our actual idler for Z. And then I'm going to loosen up these guys. It's actually a little bit hard right now with the zip ties holding me up. And let's get the other one. I'm putting those on that tight, but maybe I snuck back and did that. Blame the dog. Actually, I blame the cats. I don't trust the cats. And this one a little more. Okay. Now, if you're using the standard idlers that are in the Voron manual, you can kind of pass those through without having to take this completely off. These ride up a little bit higher. It makes it a little bit more difficult. So one good thing is I can pass this through on these Rama's idlers along with these special clamps. Is as opposed to just sticking out the side, these actually allow you to stick it out the mouth like a tongue. So idlers are sticking their tongues out at us. And that does also give us a really good lock on that belt. Because not only is it being held by the clamping action of the of the actual clamp, but it's also being pulled in a 90 degree. So there, fun times. Oh yeah. All right, let's do a quick fun moment of truth here. Let's see if this part's supported. Look at that. It is. We're getting somewheres. All right. All right, so at this point I've got 0, 1, 2, and we're on 3. I zoomed ahead a little bit there, and got a couple tips. Been a while since I rebelted a Z on a Voron, so didn't want to waste everybody's time watching me do something over and over and over again. So, getting this last one done. First things first, my zip ties were a little bit short, so I went ahead and doubled up a zip tie so I could extend it down a little bit further. See, it's about double the length down that was. It just enables me to get my tools in there a little bit better. And also have a tip on running the belt. I was struggling for no reason, just not using my brain. But my struggle made me realize what to say to help you when you do yours. So let's get this bottom piece in. Make sure we're lined up. Got about a centimeter out. We'll go over this last one here, and then once this last one is on, what I will do is go over the routing in detail with close-ups. So if you're watching this and you're having routing issues with your belts, hopefully that will help some. Yep, where it wants to be. You do want to make sure your belts are centered inside of the grooves that are in your printed parts. That'll make sure that they take the proper path to every place else they need to go. And I'm not sure what's going on now. But get this last thing tied up. There we go. All right. Now we got that. So tip / trick is when you run your belts, if you hold it over an edge of a table, make sure you don't tip it over, kind of drop your belt all the way down past your motor. Just make sure you got it in the right direction here, and just drop it all the way down. Drop it right off the side. Once you have it all the way down, sorry about that loud noise, you can then bring it straight back up on the other side of that drive, that stepper drive, and it shouldn't fight you too much because you're not trying to loop it around. Once you get that, you bring the whole thing back up. Make sure you get around your teeth, and then put yourself firmly back on your build surface. Browse yourself through your A or B drive, like so, up around your idler, and then back down through your second clamp. Now these clamps again have the tongue hole. The ones listed or shown in the manual do not. The standing suggestion in the manual, I believe still, is use a zip tie to basically hold your excess belt to your belt that comes off of that clamp. Just kind of hold it there. And in this case, what we'll do is tighten this up like so, and we'll leave those long for now. There's no real need to cut those short, and when time comes, honestly, I don't know why I need to leave them very long. If anything, you'll be tightening them up, which means you'll be pulling more out of them. So cutting these flush on the edges here, just to show you. Right here, these will get cut flush, or else they'll be dragging across your sidewalls. And these right here, I mean, you can leave another inch or 2.5 centimeters on them, but you don't need to have a ton there, because if anything, you're gonna make them longer when you adjust things for additional tension, unless you over tension something, which I would think be kind of a rarity. But let's go ahead and clip that last zip tie, and our gantry now is afloat. All right, so that being what it is, let's get this camera down here and see if we can do that. And yeah, that works. It's a little dirty, I think. A little smudge on that right there. There we go. That's a little better. Then we have our M5 by, I think these are M5 by 40s. Yeah, M5 by 40s on these. And let's see. It's a good one. Dust plus this. Yeah, that'll work. M5 by 40s, and these are actually going to be going up through the parts that we attach to our linear rails, and then attach into there. We've lubricated the top of these slightly. We're going to put a tiny bit of thread locker on the ends of these. These are attaching to the nuts that are on the insides of those parts. So go ahead and slide that up. Oh, almost forgot the most important part here. Slide that up. It should, yep, carry through. And then we'll give that a tighten. We won't go too tight on that. We'll just get it in place for now. Okay. I was going to mention, I still have my rubber dilly-dally still on there for stopping my carriage from going all the way off my rail. LDO does have a printed part for that. I did print them. I will add them eventually. So that's that one. We're going to repeat that 4 times, but instead of me showing you how to repeat that 4 times, I'm going to take this opportunity and show you the complete belt routing on one of these, so that you have that information in a video. I'm sure that other people have it too, but here is the route. So the route starts underneath, right here, with your belt going up and over through your clamp on this side. Again, your teeth should be facing upwards through there. Your teeth should be facing inwards towards your printer, okay? That goes then down, right here, goes down through around your drive gear in your stepper, or in your stepper, your bottom Z stepper. This is 0. Again, I suggest you drop it all the way down, get off the edge of the desk. If you drop it all the way down to the ground and then back up around, you come up, you go through your idler, whether it be a Rama's idler or a standard Voron idler, or in the case of your AB drives, you go through your AB drives. Then you come up, you go up around your Z idler, okay? That should be adjusted all the way down at this point, so there's plenty of room to tension that up when you get to that point. And then basically back down through and over your clamp on here. I do like these clamps, so see if I can put the STL file for those, or link to the STL file for those on there. I think it's a better setup. Yeah. So So that is your Z belting right there in a nutshell. Most of the information you need there. A little bit of a struggle after not doing this for a while, but now we actually have a floating gantry on there. I'm gonna go ahead and attach the rails. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to make sure all of my screws are tight. As you go through these steps, there's one important thing that I haven't mentioned thus far, and I probably should, is make sure your screws are tight through every step. Again, you don't want to over tighten them, but you do want them tight, because when you get to the end and you have all, I don't know, 350 screws in this thing, finding the loose one that's causing you to have some odd boogering on the side of your prints or some odd weird distortion of some sort happening is going to be like finding a needle in a haystack. So I will see you next time, and like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks.